Let's focus on Nestle, and that stock is up 6.25% in trade right now. It's a margin beat that is driving the stock performance of Nestle. It's gained 360 rupees in today's trading session. Very quickly, I'm going to revisit the numbers that were announced yesterday, which show that the sales came in at 2295 crore rupees in the first quarter and PAT at 305 crore rupees. A year-on-year comparison doesn't make any sense because these were extraordinary times for Nestle, with its key product Maggi at the heart of some of the turmoil. But the margins, certainly a beat coming through there. We're very pleased to welcome on NDTV Profit today Suresh Narayanan, Chairman and Managing Director at Nestle India. So thank you very much for joining us on NDTV Profit. Impressive recovery is one phrase that many are using to capture Nestle's performance in the first quarter. But how would you characterize the quarter?
Firstly, thank you, Manvi, for having me on your channel, and also for your kind words that you mentioned about the Nestle performance. I would really like to classify it as a new dawn, as getting back into the game, and I would really be putting it as something that we are quietly confident about, that we are now seeing an improved trend. The overall business itself has improved in the last 3 quarters from about 17.5 billion in quarter 3 to 19.5 billion in quarter 4, and now about 23 billion in the first quarter of this year. So therefore, I think overall underlying trends seem to be positive. Obviously, Maggi has come back; it's come back to leadership, but there is still a long road ahead. But I think it's a greater degree of confidence as we come out of the worst, which we hope is behind us.
Certainly hope the worst is behind you. But, you know, if you had to just detail what were the, the strong contributing factors for this comeback, what would you list?
Look, first thing is Manvi, as you know, that we were off the market for almost 5 months. Now, for a brand like Maggi and for the kind of consumer equity that it commands, our first task was to get Maggi back as soon as possible. And I think after the process of due diligence that we had from the High Court and from all the testing procedures that we thereafter followed, the whole objective was threefold. Number one, to communicate with the consumer and to respond to the consumer even when the brand was really not there on the shelf. So we miss you too. The campaign was really around that, because it was really talking to the consumer when we were still not there in the market. Then the second bit was really on Maggi being safe, and that's something that I have held and that has also been vindicated by all the testing that has been done. We were safe, we are safe, we continue to be safe, and that was the other piece that we had. And the third one, of course, really was post the launch, which is nothing like Maggi. Behind it, Manvi, there has been an enormous amount of effort we have done, and my team, I'm very proud of what my team has achieved and what my partners have achieved. What would take us 45, 50 days and maybe even 2 months to achieve, people have done it in 8 and 10 days. So there's been a huge amount of work in the ecosystem to get the brand, because it has been such an important brand, not only for us as a company, as Nestle, but also for a large number of distributors, retailers, and suppliers and farmers who have been behind this brand. What has been heartening, Manvi, is the response that the consumers have given us. I'm truly grateful, and I would like to express this through your channel to the consumers who have stood by us in the most difficult days, to ensure that when we come back, we have the kind of rousing reception that we have received.
But you know, the time and the period that Maggi was off the shelves, I'm sure the competitive landscape also changed. And, in a sense, does it make the comeback job even harder for you at Nestle?
Well, surely, Manvi, you are right that the competitive intensity has clearly increased. Plus, also when a market leader like Maggi gets off the shelf for a while, it really does dent the overall category as well. So the competitive intensity in the category has certainly gone up. And that's what really makes me also, as a pragmatic business person, to evaluate and to judge that the task ahead, while it is plausible, is definitely going to be a long road. So it's not that things are back to normal. Things are on the road to normalcy. But I would really think that with the intensity that we are seeing in the category and in the marketplace, there would be renewed efforts by us to ensure that we get back to where we belong, which was really the pre-crisis time that we had for brand Maggi.
Okay, so honest admission, it's going to be a fairly long road to normalcy. But as you go about rebuilding the Maggi business, what are the pillars of your approach?
I think Manvi is really around two broad areas. One is that, we had existing variants, and now almost 4 of them are back on the shelf. We've got a few more variants in the existing lot of variants that we had pre-crisis that we will be bringing back with renewed vigor. What is also interesting is that the business teams are working feverishly and very aggressively on new variants of Maggi, new offerings from Maggi, because really that is to address the consumer needs and expectations of a brand like Maggi, to go beyond the masala that we have. And I think that's really part of what will energize the category going forward. So you'll have 2 planks to it. The existing plank of variants that we had pre the Maggi crisis, and also some new variants that we will be putting into the marketplace.
Okay, your portfolio ex Maggi. Let's put Maggi aside for a moment. What should we expect in Q2 and beyond?
Look, the portfolio excluding Maggi was clearly also impacted by what happened on Maggi, because the issue was one of the trust and confidence on brand Nestle. I'm glad that it has been vindicated through all the tests that have been done to establish the credibility and the veracity of the product. But clearly, what we are now seeing is also an improved traction on the other categories, be it milks and nutrition, chocolates and confectionery, and to some extent also in the coffee and beverages category. What will really reinforce our commitment to these categories is a whole set of new offerings, either relaunches or new launches of brands that are being put through. And as I speak to you, Manvi, there are already 5 or 6 launches that have taken place. So we've had for example, the Grecio yogurts that we've just put on the market. We've had Munch Nuts. We've had Kit Kat Duo. We've got Nescafe Sunrise Premium Insta Filter. So these are products that are already put on the shelf, and there are plans for many more going forward, all from the stable of Nestle, because as a company, Manvi, I think the strength of the Nestle portfolio, both globally that we have, is going to be a key driver for future opportunities for leveraging growth in our country.
Based on what we've already discussed, does it pretty much cover Nestle's focus on, innovation and renovation, which you referred to?
Sure, Manvi. I think one of the key vectors of growth is clearly going to be innovation and renovation. I think the exciting new India that we see, both in urban terms and also in terms of changing lifestyles, changing attitudes, changing demographics, changing expectations. I think all this defines a new landscape that I am quite excited about, and my team is also quite excited about in coming up with new offerings. Now, obviously, some of these will be successful, some of this will not be as successful, but that's the game in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. I mean, not everything that you launch necessarily becomes a huge success, but unless you keep trying and you keep innovating, I think the pulse of growth ultimately comes down.
There is a small section that fears that you could have to perhaps cut back on your advertising spends based on the fact that, the profit after tax, of course, understandably has slipped. Can you just give me a sense of your advertising spends? What's the trajectory likely to be at, the levels that we've seen, or actually accelerate, given that you're talking about renovation and innovation, or cut back?
Look, it's quite straight, Manvi. Now there are really three compelling reasons and three compelling areas where advertising support will be going. Number one, of course, is on brand Maggi. Now clearly, Maggi is on the game to get back into where it was. It will take a considerable amount of funds which we will put behind it, resources, because that's the commitment, getting back Maggi to where it belongs. The second bit is really in terms of new products, new introductions, where obviously we will look at the size of the prize, the ambition that we have, and calibrate what we are able to support these brands. And the third element is really some element of continuity on the existing brands. So therefore, you have to have some fundamental level of advertising support in order to keep current brands salient as far as the consumer is concerned. Now, going forward, as you can see, obviously, we will be stretching ourselves in terms of resources on supporting these three dimensions of growth. If you look at our margin terms, on the other hand, Manvi, that if you compare the margin in the first quarter, the operating margin in the operating profits in the first quarter as a proportion of sales, it's at 19.4. It's about 120 basis points lower than what it was last year in the first quarter, but also it's about 800 basis points higher than what it was in quarter three of last year. So the trend is clearly positive, but I think the strategy of the organization is that we privilege growth, and growth is going to be an important dimension of the equation of Nestle in terms of growth with sustainable profits.
Sure, I get that you're looking at sustainable profits, but you're emphasizing the growth aspect. And with these investments, one wonders if margins perhaps in the future could take could come under a bit of pressure, because you're also planning to increase penetration and reach.
Look, I would really not. I mean, the issue is not, Manvi, one of my giving guidance for the future. I would just like to outline that the broad strategy of the company is very clear: increase penetration, increase volume growth, exciting brands and in categories, and also entering new categories. All of this means that there is a growth dimension, there is an investment dimension, but these would be married in consonance to ensure that we have a Nestle model that is there in the market of growth with profitability.
Finally, comment on demand prospects as you see them.
Well, as far as Nestle is concerned, Manvi, we are more an urban-centric company. So let me put it fair and square that in an urban-centric company that we have with a limited portfolio for rural markets, I think we are placed reasonably well. I would not say that there is a huge amount of buoyancy out there in the marketplace. But clearly for us, as I see for Nestle, there are opportunities that we can plug and there are opportunities that we can exploit. So I think as a combination of this, I would really be more concerned about my capabilities at ensuring that we have the right propositions at the right time in the marketplace, rather than getting too worried about whether the overall market is really as buoyant as it should be.
Suresh Narayanan, you've been very patient in answering all of my questions, which went far beyond Nestle's performance in the first quarter. Thanks very much.